Follow the drip, follow the drip.
Tried this morning and gave up.
The product just wasn't working.
Wasn't holding.
It wasn't holding.
It wasn't holding
I
me.
know, I had the same problem shutting down yesterday.
In here?
In general.
I
In
tell you,
general.
we're gonna have to do
Hey,
it.
did you try again? Did you shut it off and try again?
Well, it went off on its own and then I did it again. I'll hang on.
You say that she's gonna punch you
I
square in
know,
the
right?
mouth.
I'm gonna
Not
duck.
today.
I'm gonna duck under the table.
No, the computer's not coming.
Oh, yeah. When it works well. When it doesn't,
Let's try again.
I have faith it will work better this time.
Now, I know my password.
Yes, ma'am.
If it comes right up this time, after messing with me for 30 minutes.
So yesterday it wouldn't shut down, and I don't like to leave my computer on at the house in
yeah.
case, you know, because our computers are so old, I'm afraid the battery will catch on fire.
Yeah.
I'd rather be in my car when it does that. But it's a lot less to replace.
Right, right.
Especially since it's been all the work done.
Ah!
Yes,
Dante
exactly.
asked.
And I could get the county
Yeah.
up to 200,000 and probably get.
See, I took one for the team for you.
I had to holler at me to my doctor's appointment.
Actually,
Like, I took a machine from Pensacola over, like, it was still spinning, trying to shut down.
you have different options based on
Right.
title
Yeah.
or whatever. Skip, come on, people.
Skip Tilly.
Got it. She was like, yeah. As long as this PowerPoint will do. Sometimes it wants to be a bug.
There we go. Working your technical magic, Jim.
It's like business.
Hey, Allison, since this hasn't been up on the screen, because the computer was acting up, I will need to read it in. So just after you call to order, I'll return.
Close that door there.
That's right, I forgot.
Yeah, system was down, so I couldn't look at this last night.
Go ahead. Call the meeting to order this morning. Escambia County Competency Board on our May 7th meeting this morning. Madam Secretary, do we have a determination of quorum today?
I'm going to first read in the rules, if you don't mind, and then
Oh,
we'll
I'm
do that.
sorry.
Please silence all cell phones. If you wish to speak, please let the board secretary know in advance. Otherwise, raise your hand for the board chair to recognize your request. When the chairman calls you to speak, come to the podium, adjust the microphone, and then state your name and address for the record. You are requested to keep your remarks brief and factual. Both parties of an issue will be granted uniform maximum time to speak, which usually runs between 3 to 5 minutes. This hearing is considered quasi-judicial. Conduct is formal, and profane or derogatory comments will not be tolerated. And yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, with 7 members present, we do have a quorum.
And do we have proof of publication?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. It was published on May 1st, 2025 in the Pensacola News Journal.
And do I have a motion for approval of minutes from the April 2nd meeting?
So we did not have the minutes back in time before the agenda was published. So we will bring those along with these minutes at the next meeting.
To be continued.
Yes, sir.
Public forum, we have a 3-minute rule of mic time on our public forum. Is there anybody today listed to speak?
I did not receive any speaker request forms, but I did see that somebody came in a little bit later. You might want to just poll the audience to make sure.
Is anybody here for the public forum today would like to speak? Seeing none, we will move forward. And what about the secretary status report?
I have nothing for you today.
Nothing for us today. That's not so bad. Okay, our contractor applications.
Good morning, board members. Our first applicant will be a continuation from the April 2nd hearing for Ms. Kiana Williamson. Ms. Williamson, if you will please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Ms. Williamson is not here.
She is not present. Included in her packet, I included all the original documents from April 2nd, along with any documentation she provided to give proof to her claim that she was unaware of the civil suit which was filed prior to last meeting. Since that time, she has been arrested. I included a copy of that arrest report along with the clerk of court records. Charges were larceny on a victim over the age of 65 and impersonation of a contractor. And that'll be in the report for you to review as well.
This was a continuance from last month because she had mentioned that she was not aware of this, so we gave her opportunity. So, direction of the board of dismissal for this? Or, I guess we could give a continuance, but I think it's,
A motion to dismiss.
Second.
I have a motion and a second
I think it would be to deny.
to deny.
Amendment, motion to deny.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second to deny the application. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, unanimously is approved to deny.
Board members, our next applicant is also a continuation from April 2nd. This is for Ms. Renata Cheswick. Ms. Cheswick, if you'll please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. Renata Chwetczuk, 5490 Cruzat Way, Pensacola.
Ms. Chadwick was also given the opportunity to provide additional documentation stating that she was not aware of of her husband's company and what was occurring at that time. I have included all documentation which was provided to her, including the dismissal of the fully incorporated case for the civil suit, explanation email from the applicant, along with a federal background check, which was ordered by the applicant for herself. She did include copies of 1099s showing where she did work for her qualifier. And then 3 recommendation letters from Keller Williams Realty, Builders CAD Services, and Greenpoint Insurance Brokers. Additional documents that I did find to speak to, there was a civil suit filed on April 18th, 2022. It does state, and that this was filed by Allegro Homes, that Ms. Renata was the manager of that company. So that would definitely be something to speak to. Finally, April the 4th, I did document an office interaction regarding a phone call I had with Mr. Austin Shipton, who had come into the office inquiring that whether he should continue with Allegro Homes LLC. He also stated to me on the phone that social media accounts had been shut down, and that did seem prevalent at the time, so I made sure to document that, typed it out in a letter, had that notarized, included for the board.
Ms. Jennifer, could you pull up the civil suit proof of Renata management of Allegro Homes, please? And go down to number 4, 5. I think, Ms. Renata, last time you were here, you said you were unaware of anything that was going on with Allegro Homes because your husband was
Yeah, he was doing everything. I just was on the paper because that time I wasn't working with him. I didn't know what he was doing.
According to the lawsuit, in the highlighted area you can see on the screen there, it says that you was the managing member and you was managing the company, and that you are the recorded record owner of the property there.
Yeah, but my husband took care of everything, like, and I didn't know what he was planning. I think what I was doing wrong is to trust him too much.
I want to make sure the board saw that there was,
Is this within our purview to,
So, Ms. Schwedzik has put in an application to obtain her license here. This is within the scope of what you would review to make your determination. So, again, like with the other applicants today, your decision is to approve or deny the application. It's at the discretion of the board, and if I recall correctly, during her testimony last time, her husband, they are still in a partnership, I believe, and that he would have some role in her future endeavors. So it's at the board's discretion, as with any other applicant.
understood? I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I didn't get to hear the testimony,
I'm
so I
sorry.
wanna rely on the board to provide some input on the direction where we go on this.
there was situations of lawsuits against the company Allegra, who she was a part of, and she was, told us last month it was all her husband had done it, and she was unaware of it. And I just want to make sure we saw the point here that legally she was
Obligated.
and her husband is still going to be involved in this new endeavor.
Understood.
And I want to make sure everybody sees the whole
Yeah.
picture here.
You understand
And to
where we're
add-
coming from, right? We have to determine based on what we see as evidence, and even though you're saying that your husband was handling the business, you weren't, we still have to make the decision based on the fact that your husband's gonna be a part of that decision, and there's some issues with your husband's operations of the business. So even though you're saying that it's gonna be under your name, personally speaking, and the board can speak on its own, that I still look at it as an entity that's gonna be operated by the same people. I mean, let's be serious about that. So we have to look at that, and we have to look at what's in the best interest of the Escambia County citizens, and we have to make sure our decision is based on that, and not personally on what it is that you're bringing to the table.
Yeah, but I can't be responsible all my life with my husband.
But I think that's gonna have to be something that you take up personally between yourself and your husband, and whatever legal actions there are to say that, maybe there's fraud there, whatever it may be. I have no idea. I'm just kind of throwing things out there. That wouldn't be on this board's, to make that decision for you.
And Mr. Patel, because you were not here at last month's meeting, and we don't have the transcripts just yet, and the other board members might be able to add some, Mr. Schwedzik actually applied first. And then this board received information, and his, application, he didn't come back, kind of thing. Then Ms. Renata Schwedzik applied. During that time, the Department of Business and Professional Regulation provided us with additional information in regard to some unlicensed contracting in another jurisdiction. And so that's still under review and investigation, and all of that documentation was provided during these applications. So that's
Understood.
some information that came out at the last meeting.
Understood.
And I think tied in with this also was that part of the time listed, make sure I've got this correct, guys, that part of the time listed from Grand Builders of being employed here, you guys were actually in, was it New Jersey? Is that correct?
No, we here for
So-
last year before we were living between New Jersey and Florida and Pensacola. But last year, 8 years we here.
Last year, right.
Last 8 years.
I know there was some discrepancy on the time frame there, if I remember correctly. Again, I don't,
Correct, Mr. Lister. The experience verification form did list a time frame in which some of these actions were being taken also in New Jersey. Nick has just informed me that there are some W-9s included, correct?
Correct. Ms. Cheswick did provide copies of 1099s for each year listed. And those are also included in the attachments on this application, sir.
And I want to ask you outright, because I feel like there's a lot of speculation as to whether your husband is going to be involved. Is your husband going to be involved with your
In the
future business venture,
Business?
with you?
right now, I don't think so.
No?
so we see from 2020 through 24, but I think the experience, so it's just been the last 4 years you've been here? This says 5 years and 1 month, but
5 years and 1 month was as of February 28th of 25.
Gotcha.
I don't know if a 2025 tax document has been issued just yet.
I bought the first house in 2015, I guess, in Pensacola.
this is going to be the board's discretion. I think the thing that still stands out is the fact that in 2022, this lawsuit with Mitchell Construction and Allegra, where Miss Renata was actually the manager of the company there. So, any discussion on the board? Anybody want to ask Ms. Renata any questions?
Was some of the experience that's required to apply for the license with Allegro Homes?
No, sir. The experience was signed off on, I apologize, let me get to my experience form. Grand Builders LLC, the license was established August 18th of 2016. The license holder is Mr. Adrian Mananecki.
So it wasn't, it's very complicated here.
What kind of role did you have in that company? What kind of role did you have in the company?
Van Builders,
Grand Builders.
2020.
What'd you do with that company? What was your job?
Mostly I was watching the subcontractors to make sure everything is done on time and according to the schedule. But I was doing myself some stuff like installing interior doors, painting, trims.
Trim.
Trim, interior trim.
Interior trim.
Some wood floor and tiles.
Can you speak more into the mic? Speak more into the mic? Yes, ma'am. That way they can hear better.
So tiles, wood floors, painting, and of course cleaning after all, everything.
So during the time, I guess to answer, during the time that she was working for Grand Builders, she also had a company named Allegra Homes. Is that correct? Based on the
it
lawsuit.
Back then, it was under my husband's name only.
But according to the law, it was under your name. According to the legal, I should say. Is that the right way to say it, Ms. Christie? According to the legal, it was under her name.
I'm looking at the paperwork.
No, I think it was under because my husband was mostly in New Jersey. I live with my kids here, and we travel between New Jersey and Florida. But 8 years ago, I just came here.
Yeah, that would be how it was registered with Sunbiz, is that she was the manager. It appears the way that they cited this, and I don't see, and it looks like this was filed in 2022, so that would have been a few years ago.
Right.
And is it ongoing?
So then technically, whenever she was working with Grand Builders, initially, she was not with her husband's company, then being the managing partner. It wasn't until 4 years later, in 2022. Is that correct? Because
No.
in 2018,
No,
That's
ma'am.
just when the lawsuit was filed, it was 2022.
oh, okay. And under Sunbiz, does it state the year of the company originating with her husband and when?
So all we would have would be Florida's access, I believe.
Okay.
So I'm gonna look up Sunbiz for you.
Okay, just to kind of create a timeline.
And see if we can find, I don't know if we have anything. Nick, do you have anything from the New Jersey
In
equivalent?
regard to the formation of that organization, no ma'am, I do not. We have documentation of the original civil suits out of New Jersey.
I asked my husband to change under his name, and he did, I believe. He did.
Allegra Homes
Years
was
ago.
started in 2019, according to Sunbiz.
And I know I said at the last meeting too, I don't want the sins of a husband to be placed on the wife, and if she's trying to do good and make ends meet for her family.
I have my own business. It's called Renaland. It's under me.
Okay.
From time to time, I'm trying to buy some land, and what is my plan to build a house on those lots, and sell it or rent it, something like that.
So what Jennifer is flipping through right now, Allegra Homes has been incorporated in other states other than Florida. So she's flipping through those records that she has now. And I'm gonna look at what they just handed me to see what I can tell you from it.
So you can see on your screen, this one is in New Jersey. The next one is in New York. The Ocean County is in New Jersey. So there's a few different states involved here.
I think it's New Jersey and New York.
2021, it was registered in Mrs. Renata's name in Florida, and then it was changed to Mr. Albert's name in 2022, January, according to the state records.
The second page.
So the bottom line is that you were the manager of the company at the time of the lawsuit. I know you say that your husband,
But I didn't even know about it.
well, you would have been served papers to have known about it. You had to appear in
No.
court over it. Because you as the managing member, were you not asked to be in court over this?
I never went to the court. I didn't even know about the situation. I found out much later.
Well, he kind of messed you up big time. I mean, that's your husband. I don't mean to be despairing here, but I mean, your name is listed continually through here.
Is it currently listed?
No, her husband changed it to his name in 2022 in Florida,
Okay.
but 2021 was in her name.
So it appears, according to the records that been provided in Nassau County, another lawsuit was filed in 2024, specifically listing her under Allegra Homes, and that was, so she'll have to go back to handle. It says the place of trial is going to be in Nassau County. This was in April of 2024.
Were you aware of that one?
I wasn't owner of the company in 2024.
Of the one in New Jersey?
It was probably same what happened many years ago. It was same situation. Back then it was under my name, but not in 2024.
Not in Florida. We're talking about in
No.
is it New Jersey? Is that what you
It's New
said?
Jersey.
This is one in New York.
New York?
Hold on. let
It
me-
was
yeah,
one,
Nassau.
I don't know, one in New Jersey and one in New York, Aurora Company, something like that. But nothing in Florida, no.
I'm sorry you're put in this position, but it puts us in a position where by your name being attached to these legally, it's, like Ms. Patel said, you know, for the citizens of our county,
It's
these things are-
sometimes you trust your husband too much and then you got this.
no, yeah, I mean, that's your marriage, not, and we're not here to
Yeah, I know.
to get into that by any means, but from the standpoint of our governing of this licensings in the county, we have to deal with facts. That's before, it's not necessarily the situation of a relationship. You know, if he took advantage of you and your name, that's between the two of you. But us here, we have to look at,
Yeah, but you asked me about the situation between
right,
us.
right. Because there's ongoing stuff right now in New York with your name on it. I don't know if you're aware of that, but they just pulled it up. There's a lawsuit in Nassau County, New York, with your name.
Yeah, but again, I didn't know about it. I wasn't involved.
Christy.
You don't know anything about it?
I wasn't involved.
So I think one of the, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I-
You'll probably answer what I was gonna ask.
I was looking through the paperwork on the New York case, and she's repeatedly listed. And at the time, they were already living in Florida when this was filed. At least Albert was, and I'm sorry, Cheswick,
I say Kvetchuk.
okay, was living in Florida when this was filed in 2024. This information, I don't know, and you may want to look to see if it was provided as part of the application.
It was not.
Okay, so I would then look at the DBPR record. They would have noticed them, so she should have known about this at some point, should have been made aware of it by DBPR.
Yeah, DB Pure.
Yeah, but I don't have that in front of me. I don't know if you do, the packet.
I do not have any record from DBPR, no, ma'am.
Okay, so we just have what they provided us, but I don't know that they,
And this was, the research done was limited, but looking and searching for her name online, this is what we were able to find, based out of these counties. So with the limited resources we have, we were able to find these suits.
Mr. Paul, you started the questions here. Get back to you.
Well, and all that we're discussing is important. My bent was her experience contracting, and minus all that we're discussing today, we need to consider what the experience is, and so that's if we have time to discuss that, I think it'd be relevant. Can you describe what sort of construction experience you have, active construction experience, or any experience with the Florida Building Code?
How I said, I was like making sure the subcontractors was doing fine. They was doing good job, good quality job. Also, I'm building right now my own house as a homeowner. So I think I know what to do, but I still, of course, I still have to study a lot. If I wanna pass the test, I know I have to study a lot. Still.
so what they would want to know, I think what I recall from the history, that you did a lot of, you yourself did painting and tiling work.
Yeah.
Was there anything else that you did in the area of construction?
A little bit of siding. I didn't go to the roof because I'm scared of the height.
know if you had an opportunity to look at her application. I don't know if any, I apologize. Last week when I went to look at this, the county system wasn't working, so I couldn't see it. And you get a very small window that I devote to just you. You're welcome. And it was caught with IT. So, but I do remember listening in the past. Of course, I do meet with Jennifer on these things. And the things that you would want to look at when you're considering these based on the conversations. One, I think the experience is very important, what experience she's had in contracting, what training, any schooling, anything that she, you certainly want to look at experience. And then I understand your line of questioning is because of, to make sure that we're not putting somebody in a position to affect our citizens in a negative way. We certainly have seen that, and it's within your purview to avoid that when possible. So you may want to go back and look at the application, see what was included, what was not included, what's the possibility based on the documents that have been provided that she was made aware of this. Unfortunately, we don't have service documents, so we can't tell you she was served, but she was listed in all these cases, and you can see that in the paperwork. I believe, I recall that she's still living, you and your husband are still living in the same house.
Same house.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if any service were provided, it would have been at that same, it would have been in that location or whatever address they had listed according to their businesses in New Jersey and New York. I can tell you in the state of Florida, it's the contractor's responsibility to update your addresses, not the state of New York or the people that are the plaintiffs to track you down. So with a DBR investigation pending, I think that you may want to consider where DPPR is on this. We just don't know at this point.
Yeah, to Mr. Paul's statement here, obviously the actual knowledge, field knowledge is very important, along with the business knowledge. And I think that's what flagged us more was the business part, because it's a good balance. You have to know what you're doing, but then you have to know how to take care of what you're doing. So, and there's an active DBPR investigation going now. Is that correct?
So that is correct, sir. We received information in regard to Ms. Schwedzick's husband, and at that time, I guess they were listed as partners or whatever. And so there is an active investigation into some unlicensed construction going on in another jurisdiction. And that's how it was. DBPR contacted us because they had heard that they were coming through us to become licensed. And at that time, the investigator questioned if that was accurate, and I said, yes, it is. And they said, do you have this additional information? And I said, no, we do not. And they provided the information. It was based on their investigation into a case they have.
So doubling back one more time, Mr. Paul, so the experience of it, did she tell you what you needed to hear on that part?
Well, absent of getting into the Florida Building Code and asking questions, I think I've got a feel.
Okay. Any other input from the board here before we kind of head to I want to throw out the idea of let's see what this DBPR thing does. Because they have a serious investigation going on from what I understand. So I think, and we want to be very respectful to you, Ms. Renata. At the same time, this delicate balance of our citizens and people coming into business. We love seeing builders. We just don't have enough homes already, so that's all. But we have to be careful, and with the ongoing cases and with the ones that's here listed in Florida and in New York, and it just there's a pause button. I feel I need some input, but I just kind of feel that little pause button to say, let's let this thing kind of play out to see. Because from what I'm understanding from the DBPR, another jurisdiction in Florida, there is a situation going on right now, but it's in Florida. It's not Allegra Homes. It's not the New York thing. There's no one in Florida. So this pattern is repeating itself. So,
You've got listed on the application Grand Builders. Who is that?
that's who they was working for.
Okay, it's a company you're working for right now?
Anton and Adrian.
So you're working with Anton now?
Not now.
2018, right?
2020 and 20.
It says through 2/8 of 2025, through February 28th of 2025, you were still working with them until February?
No. Yes, but not now. I'm not working with
But you're
them.
not working with them now, I got you. So I'll entertain a motion from somebody to pull this together. If we want to. But Ms. Chris, let me ask you this. Would it be, is it just we deny and let her come back afterwards? Or do we put it on hold until, is there even a ground or is there a position for that?
Well, when it comes to this area, you have very broad powers. If you want something that's just an easy one, it would be deny until that is resolved with DBPR. That would probably be the easiest, or these additional cases are resolved. If new information is found, those are all things, she can still provide additional information, and she can bring it back before you, but, you could certainly deny with the opportunity to reapply.
Right. It's not saying no permanently, it's just saying, given these current circumstances,
I'll make a motion to deny based on the circumstances that surrounding the applicant at this time.
And you would leave the opportunity
I'll leave the
to reapply.
opportunity open to come back another time.
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm curious if we deny or continue, is there some sort of asterisk or red mark then placed on her record for having been denied?
We would not do that as staff.
Okay.
I think if you were to continue on with this motion and then she were to come back with a new application that was, included additional items,
She
there
come-
would be no red mark. We don't maintain things
Okay,
like that.
got it.
And again, for information purposes, like we discussed, DBPR, the other cases, if you come back and say, look, all these are resolved or solved, I think that would give us more of a opportunity to accept your application. So it's not saying, at this time we are, based on all the circumstances that are surrounding you as an applicant. But you're more than welcome to bring it back. I think the biggest one is the DBPR, which you've heard, is if they're doing an investigation. I mean, and again, once we provide you with the approval, you still got to go through DBPR, and if they got something outstanding against you, I'm not sure whether they would or whether they wouldn't provide you a business license to do business with the opportunity we give you today.
Okay.
So I think maybe if you clear that up and then come back and, we provide you and grant you permission to go ahead and get you the license, and then it'd be easier for you to go back to DBPR.
So before we vote, let's say we're not slamming the door on you, okay? I
Okay.
don't want you to feel that when we leave here. That's not, I don't think anybody up here feels that. I think it's more of, we just having to be precautionary, and we're rooting for you to get through this,
Okay.
all right?
Thank you.
So I'll have a vote. Or any other discussion first? No discussion? All in favor?
Before you vote, may I ask a question? Have you reviewed the history to see if there's even enough experience for the purposes of sitting for the license? Based on Mr. Sims' question. I mean, that may be, before she comes back in with all that resolved, that may be another hurdle that she needs to get through or get over. I don't want to give her
Mr. Paul
false hope,
was-
that's why I want to make
Mr.
sure
Paul
you
was-
addressed it.
Mentioned the Florida building code items. If she's supervising the trades, according to the application, supervising all trades when construction, new built houses, hands-on project manager, tradesperson working on various projects and operating on-site machinery and safety procedures.
not knowing her scope of work. I mean, if it's supervisory position, then clearly, you would have the experience, but if she's actually doing the actual trade, then there may be some concern.
The
But I think
application
she's
listed
just-
as-
She's listing just supervisory of all trades, right?
This is crew leader and superintendent.
So just to draw you to the requirement, it requires 4 years of experience, one of those years being hands-on in the trade that they are applying for. So that's 1 year of hands-on performing construction projects she's applying for
Building contractor.
building
Building
contractor.
contractor,
So that includes actual hands-on construction experience in commercial projects, less than 3 stories, as well as residential projects. So she would have to speak to hands-on experience in that arena. Now, I know there's an experience verification form, and since we had some board members present, not present at the last meeting, the same contractor that signed off on this form also signed off on her husband's form as well. So
Maybe we need to get this contractor here and ask him if he's physically.
just the requirement is 4 years of experience with
Yeah.
1 year of hands-on
Yeah,
experience.
correct.
Some flags here. So the question, or the thing would also be just make sure you pay good attention to the experience level, and in the meantime, make sure you have that.
Okay.
Gotcha, okay. All right, let's look for a vote. Any other questions real quick? Make sure I don't shut you out. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none, is denied for today until the DVPR gets their investigation completed in these other cases, and then you're welcome to come back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
I got a question, maybe for legal to Jennifer. So, there's times that we have builders that will write a verification form for people that are applying for the license. Are we allowed to call upon them and ask them?
We actually do.
Okay,
We
we
do
do.
verify that with them, and it's a simple, yes, they did work for us. Nick can speak to that because he actually does the
It would-
verification.
And it would be a phone call to verify.
Maybe even a form for them to fill out outside of that the county asking for. I don't know if we're able to do that or not.
Outside of our experience verification form at this time, we don't have an additional form, no, sir.
Okay.
Can I ask the second question with that, Ms. Legal?
What you have before you is the one that's supposed to be, that's the verification by the employer, by the contract. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
If a board member sees a name there that they recognize, is it for us to call also to follow up? Do we have that, or is that out of something we should not be doing?
I wouldn't recommend it.
You would
I
not
would
recommend-
recommend reaching out to Jennifer or especially to Nick and letting them handle that.
Okay,
They can reach out and go, if it does, and that's no big deal. You can always talk to staff and say, hey, I need you to look into this. Even if we're not in a board meeting, you can ask them to look for something and bring that information back before the board, as long as you don't discuss it with other board members. But getting information ahead of time may be putting you in a situation to have to fill out a form, and that could remove you from voting.
okay. Thank you. We will move forward. Good thing you ate a good breakfast.
All righty. Good morning, Board. The next applicant appearing before you today is Mr. Clayton Curry. Mr. Curry, if you will, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Clayton Curry. Address is 5180 Willow Run Drive, Pensacola.
Mr. Curry here is applying for the application to take the examination for sign erector, non-electrical, and he is appearing before you today with 4 years, 5 months, and 14 days of experience. He's worked as installation manager at Pro Image Signs, LLC, under the supervision of Steve Duncan, who holds the license number ES12001371, and he's held this license since 2015. While working at Pro Image Signs, Mr. Curry, his responsibilities included, but not limited to, scheduling projects, updating clients with progress, ensuring loading and transportation of signs to the location and performed safely. While filling out the application, Mr. Curry did select one of the questions under financial responsibilities requiring explanation of judgment and closure of if convicted of a crime, which was provided by the applicant, and staff is deferring to the board for denial of approval of application.
You'll tell us about yourself?
Born in Denver, Colorado. Been here most of my life, though. Been in the kind of construction industry for most of my adult life. Either working for my father or, the past 15 years working for Illuma Designs. We do interior displays, picture framing, modern picture framing, stuff like that. Business, we do rebranding for a lot of clients around town and stuff. And it's kind of gotten to the point where we get into these bigger projects and, they're wanting the electrical stuff, the building signage, the site signage and stuff. We're not able to do that. So formed a relationship with Pro Image Signs, and I've been working with them, like you said, for the past 4.5 years. And just trying to take, that business to the next level to where we're able to provide, full service. So yeah, pretty much.
So it would still be non-electrical. You'd still hire electricians for that?
Absolutely. Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes,
Gotcha.
absolutely.
Gotcha. Thank you for your honesty on the application here, and I guess if you grew up in Denver, it would explain the. Just,
Alton.
That was a long time ago. It's a different world
just
now.
trying to make it
Yes,
dad, just a dad
we all
joke.
have our.
It would have been a non.
Yes,
back
correct.
then, yeah. Well, I want to say beautiful reading first and foremost. Second, I passed by your office, your beautiful
Oh,
building.
it is nice. Yes.
Every
Yeah,
day.
we
I
love
live
being
not
down
so
there.
far away. And to segue into, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Do you have any discussion? I have a motion and a second to approve Mr. Clayton for sign director. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none. Thank you, sir. Good
Appreciate
luck
y'all.
with everything.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, the next applicant appearing before you today is Mr. Benjamin Gambino Leiden. Mr. Gambino Leiden, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Benjamin Gambino Leiden, 216 Promenade Lane, Cantonment, Florida.
All right, Mr. Gambino Lighting is requesting reinstatement of expired delinquent license RP 252555447 for a pool contractor after 8 years of it being expired. He has maintained an active license with completing the required continuing education. It is the competency card that has gone into delinquency with its expiration. And staff is, again, deferring to the board for denial of or approval of the application to reinstate this competency card.
So based on your email, you still have your state license?
Yes, sir.
And what does that not cover? Just for clarification of why you would want these reinstated.
Basically, it just covers me to be able to repair pool pumps and filters, because I just do minor pool cleaning and minor repairs on pools.
Right.
I don't do any construction at all on pools. At the time of getting my approval the first time with you guys from the board 8 years ago, I was under the assumption that this was like a part of the process to get my state licensing, and that once I had that I would keep up with that and I wouldn't have to come back here. I guess I misunderstood that, but I have kept up with the state licensing. Every 2 years my testing has been done. I've been fully insured the whole time. I basically just missed the part where I had to come in here and renew every year with you guys, but everything else has been kept up to date.
So I have a question for
yeah,
you.
go ahead.
If I may. Are you talking about your state registration or your state certified license?
My RP.
Oh, so it's your registration. So it's not actually a state license that he
I gotcha.
obtained. He registered his
gotcha.
license with the state.
I got you.
And he's been maintaining that.
Thank
Did
you.
not.
Thank you. I was
There
a
you
little
go.
confused myself. I was thinking, if you got state license, you wouldn't need them from us, but I understand. So you're licensed with the state as far as register the DBPR
Yes, sir.
I got you. I follow you. Well, man, you need these pretty bad then.
Yeah, I just came in here to do an address change because I moved. I had no idea this was even going on, and I'm very sorry for being so delinquent. But yeah, I just would like to get everything back
Yes,
on
sir.
track and be legal again like I'm
Good
supposed
deal.
to be.
Good move. Good move. Any discussion up here? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussions on the motion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved. Thank you for making these things right, Bo.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty, our next applicant appearing before you today is Mr. Christopher Taylor. Mr. Taylor, please come to the podium. State your name and address for the record.
Christopher Taylor, 871 Jacks Branch Road, Cantonment.
All right, Mr. Taylor is applying for the application to take the doors, windows, and siding examination and appears before you today with 5 years, 3 months, and 29 days of experience. Mr. Taylor worked as general manager at R.S. Bowles LLC, doing business as Precision Door Services, under the supervision of Robert Bowles, who holds an active license number DWS 0095. Mr. Bowles has held this license since 2019, and Mr. Taylor's responsibility includes, but are not limited to, repairing and installing garage doors, training new technicians along the way as well. And for verification of experience, Mr. Taylor is using W-2s due to the relationship with license holder Robert Bowles. While filling out the application, Mr. Taylor selected yes on one of the questions under the financial responsibilities, requiring an explanation of judgment and closure of the conviction of a crime, which was provided by the applicant. And staff is deferring to the board for denial of approval of the application.
Do you have any questions for the applicant? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? What's the discussion?
said sorry for yelling.
No, you-
I was like, second.
Gotta be assertive sometimes. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none. Ms. Taylor, you've been approved.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Yes, sir. She was on the roll.
If you wanted to moonlight as anything, a DJ would be your way to go. Ooh. Hey, I need you to come visit my office with Christy.
And a cigar aficionado?
Into that.
Okay, let's get back on record here.
So I think county legal was having some communications with staff and some direction on some items that we need to bring
Thank
to y'all
y'all.
at a later date. So our next item is Robert.
Can I pause you just a second? Thank you guys for doing the deep dive in these investigations. It does make our job better to have the proper information. And so the deeper y'all go, the better it is for us. Just want to, is that right, guys? Ladies?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We definitely appreciate that, and we understand the same responsibility to serve the citizens.
Yes.
Thank you all for everything that y'all do, and thanks to and everybody, you know, got the motivation, always.
Yeah, I know Miss Jennifer's she's a tough taskmaster, so y'all got it, you know.
They better stay on track. I run a tight ship, okay?
That's what I'm saying. She does her job well.
Well, I appreciate it.
And we thank you for doing your job well, Ms. Jennifer. Okay, yeah, that's another thing. Can we just pause and thank Ms. Jennifer because she keeps us all in, huh? Yeah, she keeps us in line all the time.
If I've told her once, I've told her a million times. I am trying to clone her. I'm looking into the technology to do that, so.
She was a good hire, Mr. Tim. You done a good job. Oh, I'm sorry. I set her up, didn't I?
Approved.
All in favor, say aye, right?
Why, thank you for putting me on the spot. Can we move on now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Our next item is Robert A. Skachak III, doing business as RS Services LLC, doing business as Honeybee Plumbing. So this is a subgroup from an umbrella company. State registered license number RF 11067738. Contractor Competency Board complaints number 250329 COM. It's in regard to Matthew Sprague, the homeowner complainant at 2028 Hamilton Crossing Drive, Cantonment, Florida 32533. Proper notice was sent to the respondent. It's in the backup as investigators exhibits A and B, the notice and then the certified return receipt. Mr. Skachak, are you present today? Just put it into the record that Mr. Skachak is not present. Mr. Sprague, are you present today? I am. Thank you. And are you going to be providing testimony for this hearing? At this time, I'm going to request that Mr. Sprague, as well as our investigator, Ms. Reber, be sworn.
You swear from the testimony about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. I swear.
And Ms. Reber will remain sworn for the duration of all of the hearings. So Ms. Reber, was a complaint filed with this board in regard to this case?
Yes, it was on May 30th, 2025, excuse me, March 30th, 2025.
And was it assigned case number 250329 COM?
That's correct.
And who was the subject of this case?
Robert A.
Skachak?
Skachak.
Yes.
Is doing business as RNS Services Group LLC, also Honeybee Plumbing.
And who filed the complaint?
Matthew D. Sprague.
And the license number for Mr. Skachak?
RF 11067738.
And just as a note, Mr. Skachak is a state registered master plumber with gas. You performed an investigation as a result of the case?
Yes, I did.
And is the complaint, the actual complaint form uploaded to the agenda?
Yes, it is.
Did your investigation result into any alleged violations? Could you please state those, your justification, and any supporting documentation?
Yes, Code Section 1837D9G, contracting with an inactive license. The first violation would be $250 to $500. My justification was the respondent's license has been inactive with Escambia County since August 28th, 2024, and when he contracted for this project. Supporting documents is Investigators Exhibit D, license card for the respondent, Robert A. Skachak. Code Section 1837D15C, proceeding on any job without obtaining applicable local building department permits and/or inspections, job finished without a permit having been pulled, resulting in misinspection. That first violation is $500 to $1,500. A review of the permitting history for the location at the time of the complaint resulted in the respondent having not obtained the required permit. The supporting document is Exhibit C, confirmation of plumbing appointment.
All right. And were there any other additional documentation provided for this case?
Yes, there was, and they're all attached to the agenda.
At this time, staff would request that the attachments to the agenda be moved into backup.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion has been approved.
And Ms. Reber, can you take us through a brief synopsis of the events in this case?
Yes, I can. Complainant entered into agreement based on an estimate from the respondent dated January 20th, 25. This was to install an electric water heater. The total amount of the estimate was $1,089.15. The complainant ordered the water heater, so this would have been a product provided by the complainant. Complainant did notify the respondent that the item was delivered on January 27th, and the respondent scheduled an appointment for January 28th. After that installation, the respondent presented the complainant with a final invoice, which the complainant paid in full. Shortly after the installation, the complainant stated that he reached out to the respondent to inquire when the inspection would be done. The complainant stated he was concerned that the expansion tank was not compliant with code due to the respondent having installed the expansion tank on the hot side of the water heater instead of the cold. In early February, complainant contacted building services to inquire if the respondent had obtained a permit for the installation of the water heater and was advised there was no permit applied for. The respondent was then contacted by the investigator to inquire why there was no permit obtained prior to the January 28th installation of the water heater. At that time, the investigator informed the respondent that his license was currently inactive with Escambia County. The complainant advised that the respondent came out and switched the expansion tank to the cold side of the water heater. In February 5th, the respondent came in and met with the licensing division. At that time, there was additional documents required to bring his license to an active status. There was additional issues resulting with the respondent changing his business name and not having the correct business name. The complainant stated that he continued to follow up with the respondent on the status of the permit and inspection well into March of 25. The respondent stated that he would file a complaint with building services if the permit was not resolved in the next 2 days.
I believe that's a typo there. The complainant actually stated that he would file a complaint.
I apologize.
Yep.
On March 24th, the respondent advised the complainant that he would make arrangements with another plumbing company to obtain the permit and schedule the inspection. The respondent further explained to the complainant that all the liability and communication would continue to be the sole responsibility of Honeybee Plumbing. On March 26, 2025, Reliable Plumbing Plus LLC obtained a permit and passed final inspection. On March 27th, on the same day, the respondent notified the complainant that Honeybee Plumbing would no longer be providing any services and that all warranties were null and void effective immediately. During my investigation, I reviewed the permitting history of the respondent for Escambia County and the city of Pensacola. The respondent obtained 21 permits between 2018 and 2023 in Escambia County and 10 permits between 2021 and 2023 with the city of Pensacola. The respondent was notified of the filing of the complaint, however, he did not provide a written response.
And Ms. Reber, of the permits that you reviewed, did he have a consistent status of permit issued, or were the permits primarily closed?
He has a few permits, I believe, with the city, those, that's attached to the agenda.
You didn't see anything where they were all still at an open status?
No, I did not. He had a few contract terminations. I think my concern is that he's had an inactive license and he's not pulled any permits in, I believe, 2024 or 2025 with Escambia County or the city of Pensacola. So I'm not sure the status of how he's operating.
So that would conclude staff's presentation of this case. Mr. Sprague, if you would like to come to the podium, state your name and address for the record and any additional details you would like to provide.
Matthew Sprague, 2028 Hamilton Crossing Drive, Cantonment. I really don't have anything else left to say. It's just that I've gone over this with Ms. Reber many times. We've made sure that the information that she presented to you is correct. My portion of it is my water heater is now inspected, and permitted. So I'm giving this to you for this contractor. He should not be allowed to do these things because I had planned this water heater replacement. It was not an emergency. I was unfamiliar with the permitting application process, but his estimate said permit included. He began work without even applying for a permit. He began work without being currently licensed in Escambia County. When he finished the job, I said, "What about the permit?" And his wife/partner said, "Oh, we don't need a permit because we didn't go into the building's plumbing." And my red flags went up because due to a garage door work previously, I had found out that a water heater needs a permit. And I called the next day to the permitting office and I asked specific questions. Water heater needs a permit? He said, yes. I said, gas or electric? He said, yes. I said, is there any circumstance where a permit is not required for a water heater? And the gentleman said, no. So this was when the attitudes changed. His attitude changed when I mentioned the expansion tank. And instead of being cooperative, he became obstinate. He tried bullying me. That doesn't work. He tried intimidating me. No, that doesn't work. And the final straw was when he said, all warranties are null and void. You can't void a warranty from Rheem. So I filed a complaint. After all, I did promise him that I would file a complaint, and a promise is a promise.
Well, first of all, thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you for that.
And beautifully well-written, concise statement. I loved reading every bit of it. I don't like that this happened. I appreciate you coming here and making said complaint, but very well written. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may just add some information. When I was preparing my report to understand the expansion tank, because there was some text messages from the respondent to the complainant that he gave him basically a freebie, that really he owed him more money for the expansion tank. When speaking with Chief Jeff Kelly and him seeing the type of tank it was, he said this expansion tank wasn't even a necessary item, that it should have had some sort of valve or something in there to take the place of
The
that.
new ones, yeah.
correct. And the fact it was originally installed on the opposite side, you know, just some concerns there. Thank you.
When I initially contacted Ms. Reber and asked her to give him a nudge as far as the application, she reached out to him and he thought that I had filed a complaint. And I immediately received a hostile text message. And he said, well, I'm going to charge you $399 for that expansion tank. And I said, no, because that expansion tank you said was free. It was on the original invoice, and I paid the original invoice in full. So that was part of the intimidation. Part of the intimidation tactics that he used was that he sent me a huge text message, a series of them, with all of his terms and conditions. Well, I figured that since he was operating illegally or unlicensed, none of his terms and conditions would apply. So Ms. Reber's been wonderful throughout this whole thing. We've also had a lot of laughter because of the situation.
He's very pleasant to talk to.
So, again, he needs to be taught a lesson as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
And board, all of the text messages that have been referenced by Mr. Sprague as well as Ms. Reber, they are part of the agenda background.
Well, Mr. Sprague, we're sorry this happened to you. You know, this, it says very clearly in the contract that permit would be included, so, and then obviously he did not have the ability to pull a permit with expired license. So do we have a motion on this as far as moving it to disciplinary hearing, or any questions anybody else have for Mr. Sprague? I'll entertain a motion.
I motion to move forward to disciplinary hearing.
And just to confirm, you're moving forward to disciplinary with the alleged violations?
Yes, I move forward to go to disciplinary hearing for violations Code Section 18-37 D9G, as well as Code Section 1837 D15C.
I second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion up here? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved. And it will be moved to disciplinary hearing, and you will have opportunity to come back at that time, Ms. Sprague, if you choose to.
We look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
very
time.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Our next item is a disciplinary hearing. It is Mark P. Nunez, doing business as Creekwood Builders LLC, state registered license number RR 282812147, contractor competency board complaint number 240434 COM. It's in regard to Charles Day, the homeowner complainant at 1202 East Gadsden Street, Pensacola, Florida 32501. As you can recall, this was a previous case that came before this board. We issued a final order, and the complainant in that case has updated us to let us know that he has received nothing in regard to restitution from the respondent, Mr. Nunez. So this hearing today is for non-compliance with a final order made by this board.
And the restitution amount was $32,079.69. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm bringing the final order up onto your screen now. And the restitution was as you said. There has also been no payment made toward his fines as well. And so within the final order, it states that should the respondent fail to make those payments, he shall be brought before the board for further disciplinary action.
So I will need a motion today to ask him to come back to us for further disciplinary action, or
That's what this hearing was for. Proper notice was sent to the
was
respondent
sent to him
about this
already.
hearing, as evidence in your backup there. So this hearing is to make a determination on that further disciplinary action.
okay, so let me scan down. Our options today would be for,
Let me scroll down.
yeah, what's our options for discipline?
I'm bringing it up now. So within your authority, you can suspend or revoke the authority to obtain a permit, limited on permitting, license revocation for a period not less than 1 year, nor more than 5 years with egregious circumstances warranting permanent revocation, suspension for a period not exceeding 1 year, imposition of additional fines, imposition of costs related to the case, probation, reprimand or censure. You already did restitution to the homeowner, continuing education. So you can do any combination of those items, but those are your disciplinary actions available to you.
And Ms. Christie, I'd like to ask your input in this part. Is it okay for us to ask about previous cases or previous anything? I know we have to make the determination on this one based on this, but is there okay to ask about, repetition type thing or any cases before this?
Right, so what you have before you is a failure to pay anything. So you would make a determination as to whether or not that exists based on the facts before you, and then have a discussion on what the penalty should be. So it'd be 2 steps.
So in basing the
step is
penalty though,
determined.
are we able to do a look back to
Yes,
see
sir.
his history? I want to make sure of that. Okay.
Right, for purposes of penalty, but not for purposes of determining whether or not he's guilty of failing to make these payments.
Right. So it's pretty obvious he failed to make his payment. I think we solved the first one. That was easy. Second one would be the level of disciplinary for this. And that's where I was asking, do we have any other pending cases or any other past cases, Ms.
So-
Reber?
So in this situation, I would do a motion and a second and a vote to determine whether or not he's guilty of the first before you
Okay,
move on to the
all right.
second.
So do I have a motion to say that he is failed to make his payments per our order issued?
So you're looking for a motion for a finding of guilt for failure to make the payments as ordered.
Motion for guilty for not paying the payments
As ordered.
as ordered.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved. Now we'll move to disciplinary.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Ms. Reber, do we have,
We had a previous case a couple of years ago that was dismissed. I have had someone file a complaint, however, they have not provided me some needed documents, specifically proof of payment. Okay, then that's it.
okay.
Can I get a clarification on the record? Are you currently in another investigation? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
That's another one in the city as well.
Okay. So we have at our ability to limit to attain permit or permits with specific conditions. We can deny, suspend, or revoke his license. and we can impose additional cost. Could you clarify all this with me, Ms. Jennifer, so our board wants to be able to make a good decision here.
Correct. So if you could ask what you need clarity on.
What is our basic options here for me? We can
So-
suspend, revoke.
Right, so historically, on the final order, you already fined him.
Right,
You just made a determination that he did not pay those fines.
right,
So that, I guess, would be taken off the table here.
Right.
You've already ordered restitution, again,
Right.
same scenario. Your other options are probation, suspension, revocation, or something along the lines of what he can do in regard to permitting.
Let me clarify, based on county code, that revocation can be the revocation that exists, that's 1 year to 5 years.
Right.
Or if the board by unanimous vote finds that the case or conduct constitutes egregious circumstances, and you're convinced the safety of the public demands permanent revocation, then you can permanently revoke. But you've got to make sure that you're meeting that burden of egregious circumstances.
So we can do a probation, make sure I'm on the right track. We can do a suspension with a time frame set.
Up to
or
1 year.
Up to 1 year. And then a revoke of 1 to 5 years unless it's egregious, and then we can go into permanent. Okay, everybody understand the basic options we have here?
In a situation where you have that revocation, the 1 to 5 year revocation, he would have to get reinstated, he'd have to take the exam again and meet all the requirements of a person seeking certificate of competency for the first time. So if you go that way with the 1 to 5 years, he's gonna be back before you to see if he can even get a license.
It's a fairly stiff penalty, and it may be merited, it's just. Okay, what's the board's discretion? Any discussion?
I make a motion to revoke his license for 2 years and recommend to the CILB the same.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor for revoking for 2 years and then submit it to the CILB for the same action. Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Now, discussion.
So I want to draw your attention to the screen. Your final order already included revocation of his registration. So we've already sent that off to the CILB.
So we have already revoked his license.
We requested that the registration be revoked, yes.
We recommended it to the CILB, you have not revoked it, right?
Correct.
But we're doing it now. This would be us doing it this time.
This
Is that
motion
correct?
is to revoke it. As far as reinstatement, when it comes before the board, you may want to include a requirement that all prior fines and penalties or restitution be made before he reapplies.
Right.
You can do that now, or you can do that when he comes to reapply.
We just wait on it. Yeah, he may not come back. Any other discussion?
Is this a situation where we should say that he should sit for the exam again?
That's automatic.
Or is it automatic? Okay,
Yeah,
good.
That's just
Okay.
part of the procedure, yeah.
Procedure, okay, good. Just wanna make sure we don't have to stipulate.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for revoking of 2 years, and it's already been turned to the CILB, but we can let them know of our action. And a second to that. All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hearing none, motion is approved. Revocation for 2 years, and that the CILB be informed.
All right, our next item is a restitution only hearing for Wade L. Hunter III, doing business as Lee Hunter Construction LLC, registered license number RR 282812171, Contractor Competency Board complaint number 240863COM. It's in regard to Julie Ricks, the homeowner complainant at 215 Berry Road, Pensacola, Florida 32507. The board has seen this item quite a bit. Proper notice was sent to the respondent, and we've also tried to make communications with the complainant. This board at a previous hearing requested a continuance to encourage the complainant to provide additional documentation in regard to restitution. We've exhausted every effort of trying to get any additional documentation. And so at this time, staff would just request a possible dismissal of the restitution portion so that we can get this final order out and get this case closed.
'Cause we really didn't have enough backing for the restitution, if I remember correctly. Documentation.
When she was before the board
Right.
actually requested it directly from
Right,
her.
right.
And we told her timelines of when to get that in, and then we've brought it back, after we received nothing.
Right.
We gave her additional time. We've received nothing to date. And I believe, Ms. Reber has had no communications from her as well, responses.
That is correct. Voicemails, her mail is actually being returned.
Motion to dismiss restitution.
Do you have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to dismiss the restitution order. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Seeing none, hear none, motion is approved. Okay, is there no other items on the agenda? No other items on the agenda?
No mas.
No más?
No more, sir.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, guys.